Hello, welcome or welcome back. If you've been here for a minute on this channel, you might recognize where I am. This is where I was living when I started this channel a little over a year ago. Actually, it's a year and a half ago at this point. It's an Airbnb, and I don't know, I just kind of got the idea of revisiting, and I checked and it was available, so here I am. And I don't know if it's weird, but this place really feels like home to me, even though I only lived here for a few months. But I think that I went through a lot of changes during that time. And I don't know, I just feel like energy-wise, I really like this place. But yeah, it feels weird because I haven't been here in a while. But I figured we could do a little ramble, and I have a few topics on my mind we could talk about. I guess this will be a podcast episode, but kind of more in like a ramble style, like up close like this. Not too close, not too close. Hopefully the background noise doesn't bother you. There are cars driving by. And I have the air conditioning on because it's extremely hot outside right now. We are at probably the peak, I hope, of heat in the summer. But yeah, I feel like lately I've been going through a lot of situations where I revisit an old situation or pattern or literal place, and it kind of allows me to see how much I've changed. Because, sometimes when you're changing, you don't notice because it's so slow. But when you run into a situation where you would have reacted so differently in the past, and you do something new, I think it can be very pleasantly surprising. And sometimes it's one of those things where you just have no clue how you'll act until the situation comes up. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about what I might title this video, which is about vulnerability, intentional vulnerability, where you're being honest about how you think and how you feel, but not in a way that is needing another person's validation after. Like, you speak your truth and then that's it. You don't you don't sit there waiting to see if someone else will tell you that your truth is valid or acceptable. And I think a lot of people take great comfort in nonchalance and hiding their vulnerabilities. And I don't blame them, it's very painful sometimes, to be honest, about how you feel in all sorts of situations. For me, I feel like I used to hide more of what I was feeling because I felt pathetic when I would share how I felt, especially if I was unsure of how it would be received. And so I think in the past I would kind of just watch and wait before I shared my truth. And there's a lot of situations where I don't know if I've changed fully, because I'd have to be back in that situation and observe how I behave in order to know. Like, I'll give you an example. Several years ago, when I would start a new job or start a new class, I would be silent for the first few weeks because I was observing each person so that I could know what the dynamics were before I emerged from my shell and started speaking and behaving in my authentic way. And I think that's because I wasn't actually fully ever emerging. I was just doing it in a way that I knew would be safe. And I knew that because I had waited and watched to make sure that it was safe before I allowed those sides of myself to emerge. And if there was a certain side of myself that I didn't feel would be accepted in that particular group, I would keep it and not reveal that side of me. So a lot of people would tend to think that I'm really shy or just really quiet until they'd known me for months, and then all of a sudden I would, be more talkative. So I have no idea if I would still act like that in a group setting. I don't necessarily think that that's wrong. It's a protective measure, but I do really respect people who they just show up day one with all of themselves. I think that that is really admirable, and maybe that's just something that is who they are. I don't know, but I do think that there is some vulnerability, especially if you are a person who kind of has to intentionally do that. Intentionally
show your cards before you know what the other people have. And I don't know, I feel like I've been doing that more lately, and in order to get to that place where you can even do that, you have to be able to psychologically handle
the pain of rejection, because obviously not everybody that you show yourself to is going to connect with you.
And sometimes even if they do, they might not be ready to connect on the level that
you are offering. And so
you kind of have to be okay with just standing there in your truth. And even if everybody who you show yourself to turns away in disgust, you have to be okay with just standing there unapologetically and being like, I don't know what you guys want me to do. This is me, and that is my truth. If you don't like it, look away, walk away.
And I think that's my desire, you know, that's the level that I want to be at, I want to be operating at. And I've come a long way towards that, but not completely, obviously, not yet.
And I think it comes in waves. There are times
like right now, for example, where I feel amazing and invincible in a way. I mean, not really, but I just feel really good. And so right now I feel like I could handle anything psychologically. But then I go through other times where I just feel so like sensitive, where I feel like if somebody just looks at me wrong, I will crumple on the floor, sobbing.
So, I don't know. I guess that's just how it is, right? But yeah, I think that there is incredible power in being vulnerable. And different people do it in different ways. That's the interesting thing, right? Some people can be incredibly vulnerable in certain areas of their life, and then very protective of other aspects. And again, that's not always a bad thing. It's just, it takes courage. It takes courage
to put yourself on the chopping block, to feel things and share how you feel, and
make a joke, make a risky joke to a friend, and they might not get it, and that's okay. You don't have to shrivel up in shame. You can just make some tweaks to the joke, tell it to someone else, and maybe they'll laugh.
but even if they don't, as long as it makes you laugh, that's worth
It must be. Because you're a person too. So your perspective does matter, even if nobody else mirrors it back to you in the way that you wish they would. But yeah, I feel like the more times you get rejected and you still stand in your truth, you don't allow the rejection to change your form. It can like give you insights, obviously, and show you things about yourself, but if you stand in who you are and what your truth is, I think that is the most hardcore thing anyone can do. And honestly, the people that I respect the most, they do that. They have a kind of unwavering, I want to say, sense of self. Like they have their perspective of the world and they share that unashamedly, even if people disagree. And oftentimes, things like that are polarizing. People will either agree or disagree if you're sharing your thoughts. But that's kind of the price of entry, right? Is to just not second guess yourself when people reject what you're offering. Whether that be a perspective or just, you taking up space in some way, sharing what you think or feel. It's funny because even as I speak about this literal topic, I find myself getting insecure about the way that I'm conveying what I'm trying to convey, because I just have no idea if you even know what I mean. And that's part of it, right? That is part of it. You have to speak whatever is streaming through you and not try to do the other person's job of understanding it. And I think that's hard for me because my whole life I've experienced this thing where I say something with good intentions, just trying to communicate, right? And people wildly misunderstand what I'm saying, and it's shocking because typically I feel like I said exactly what I meant. And so then I kind of developed this habit of imagining every possible way that somebody could take what I'm saying so that I can get ahead of it, right? Because what if I think I'm saying something completely normal, but really it's somehow extremely offensive and just so fucked up, and now people are gonna be mad at me and think that I'm bad. And you'd think that that's a ridiculous notion, but I have had real life experiences where I did something very normal and people acted like I killed their dog. Like, one time I worked at this store selling purses, and part of my job as a salesperson was to sell, and so I would have to greet specific customers. Like, each salesperson would have their own customers, and you would kind of keep track of your own people, and you'd let them shop, but also check back in with them, build rapport, get them to buy stuff, and then at the end, they'd tell your name to the girl at the checkout, and you'd get credit for the sale. So that was the normal flow. I did that every day with tons of people all day long. But one day, it was
a very busy day in the summer, and the store was packed.
And there were these two girls, and they were around my age. I was like 18 at the time. So I did my usual thing. I introduced myself to them, asked if they were looking for anything. They said no. I let them shop. I checked back in with them once or twice. I never would overdo it because when I'm shopping, I feel so awkward if the person keeps talking to me. So I literally did not go overboard. I checked in a couple times, and I think it was like the third time I had talked to them. They were at the back of the store at that point, and I just went up to them as usual, like happy vibes, and I said like, oh, are you guys finding everything okay, or whatever the thing was to say. And this girl looks me dead in my face and says, I forget exactly what she said, but basically she said, we are not trying to steal. Why are you following us? You think we're gonna steal something? And oh my gosh, in that moment I felt like I got slapped in the face. My face just turned bright red, and I just kind of stammered like, no. And I just turned around and walked so fast away to the back, and I just stayed in the back for a little while. My face was hot, and I was just like, what did I do wrong? It just made me feel like I was harassing them or something, and I wasn't. I was literally doing the same thing I did with everyone. And usually it goes well. Usually the people would buy stuff, and they would, say that, we would have good rapport. Like, they would give me compliments, like I wasn't harassing people. But that experience made me rethink everything and think, like, have I been harassing people this whole time? Have they been just buying things because they're scared that I'm gonna think they're stealing? And it was horrible. It was a really horrible experience, and I felt bad.
I didn't want anyone to feel uncomfortable, obviously, but I had done something. But that's the thing, right? Is it's not necessarily always something that you do a lot of the times.
Maybe people have had experiences with being accused of things The girls, I think they were British, or like they had like a British accent. So maybe, I don't know, maybe the stores work differently there with like salespeople not checking in so much. But or maybe they'd had experiences with being accused of stealing in the past, and so I was triggering their wound unknowingly. But that's the thing, people are walking around with all kinds of paranoid things where they might project that onto you. And
I experience that a lot online as well, where people will project some
really mean thing onto me, like some evil thing that they think I'm doing. And it says a lot more about them than it does about me. But still, even knowing this, I still really try to avoid saying things that could be easily twisted. But I guess maybe I have to get over that. Obviously, some people are on the other end of the spectrum. Some people need to think about what they're saying and maybe imagine it from other people's perspectives once in a while. But if you're like me, and let me know if you relate to this, but if you are basically only thinking about all the different perspectives and you keep cutting off things that you might say or do or be because, oh, that guy over there is not gonna like that. Oh, that's against that lady's religion. Oh, that person has some issue that has to do with the thing that I want to do. And it's like, at the end of the day, if you are doing your best to be a person with integrity, you're not trying to cause harm in the world, I feel like sometimes you just have to like shut out the noise and just be who you want, and then whatever people's reactions are to that, just know that it has nothing to do with you and just observe it like a fun little show. It might catch you off guard still, like when I was in the store and the girl said that to me, but I don't know. I do think it's really funny how someone else's paranoia and their accusation can cause shame even when you know that's not what you are doing. And that's why I think it's so important to know thyself and to get so grounded in your own self, in your perspectives. And I don't know. Yeah.
I hope I didn't get carried away with talking too quickly, because this is an ASMR channel after all. But I tried to keep the flow somewhat
relaxing. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm exploding with gratitude. And I just feel amazing. I feel overflowing with love, and it's not because of any external experience. In fact, my external experiences lately, you would think it would have the opposite effect, because I've faced a lot of rejection lately in various ways, but instead it just made me realize how far I have come, because now I know that just because someone doesn't receive you does not mean that your love and your being isn't magical. And sometimes the most magical moments are in solitude. Not always, but I've had a lot of magical moments when I was just in my own energy. And I don't know, I'm just feeling extremely grateful. But I guess that'll be all for now. I'm thinking about what video I want to do next, because I was thinking of doing a role play. I was going to do a role play right now, but I decided to talk it out with you. So now, this sacred moment can be shared, and thank you for existing at the same time as me. I feel extremely lucky. I love you, and I hope that you are shining however makes sense to you. There is no right or wrong way to be yourself, only what you prefer. As long as you're not hurting anyone. But yeah, I guess I'm trying to think of the word. I keep dilly-dallying, I guess, because I just love every second with you. Is that some good riz or what? But no, really, I appreciate you. You're very special. And be what you want to see in the world. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to embody what I enjoy, whether or not it's received. Because I can hold it. I can experience it at least. I can't hold it forever. I can just watch it flow through. I can experience it. But yeah, anyways, I'm rambling, which is good because this is a ramble. So, got what you came for.